All right. So this is a piece by Antares. He left his information here in case you want to contact him. What I want to talk about today is just a little bit of light. Well, I'm going to try to talk about everything, so it's going to be a variety of stuff. But something I do want to discuss with you guys. It's something that you guys forget about. Maybe because you guys have been working in grayscale for so long, working with colors is a little bit more different. You forget that the light source has a color to it. So right over here we have a universal light source revealing her face. All of this light revealing her face, revealing her hair, her dress. And when you guys choose your light, your mid-tone, your shadow, and your highlight, you guys end up choosing completely different temperatures. So it's like your cell shading, or you had pencil crayons. You had a light blue, a dark blue, and a medium blue, and you use that. You forgot to include the color of the light source and what the color of the light source is doing to these colors. So the purples seem like they're from their own different world. The blues are from their own different world. The skin tones are from their own world, and the hair. And then you got the secondary light source ambience, which is really strong. It should be casting a shadow this way. That secondary light source strength is too bright. So what you're telling me, with this light environment, this overcast kind of situation, you're telling me that I can see the face as if it was sunlight. Really super universal light source, really bright and high in the sky, casting really short shadows. So, you know, this has its own light source. And then you've got the dress, which seems like it's reflecting a nearby blue. Seems like the dress is at nighttime. We're seeing it. Yes, the color of the dress is dark, but fabric is still somewhat reflective, and we should start seeing the color of the light source in there. So what we start off with, I can do this many ways. I'm going to just get a color mode on my brush and get that gray, and I'm just going to lay it over all the colors over here. All the highlights of all of these colors are going to get some of that gray. Skin tone is going to get grayscaled somewhat, but only on the brightest points. Okay, so there's a really, really strong light source nearby. And I'm going to grayscale the successive color we're seeing in the highlights. It's not that bright. And so we usually see the color in the midtone, not the highlight. Color is the best at its best temperature at the mid. The foot is very, very small, by the way. Okay. And then I'm going to now bring in the color of the light source, and I assume the color of the light source is like a studio white. I'm going to attach some yellow to it because of that skin tone. It's telling me it's like an outdoor face, but it's an outdoor image, but you presented it with an indoor setting. So we've done that before. You know, we've faked ambient light and moonlight on these values. So what I'm doing now is I'm bringing in some of that light source color on these highlights. And that's the biggest issue I'm seeing with a lot of your work. You guys forget that the light source has a color to it, and it alters the highlighter color of all of these, especially if it's reflective fabric. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing near the hair. On the skin is very, very bright. It's very pale and very, very yellow. We don't get that yellow unless they are a tanned pale. I'm not really sure how to describe, like an Asian kind of pale. It's kind of it's not yellow. Asians aren't yellow. They lack the purple red. They still have reds and blush, and they're more like a pale white than a yellow. I would never use, it's like a really light tan value. I really don't know how to describe it. It's not yellow because yellow has greens in it, and a lot of the white values, what Caucasian skin has green. So in fact, white skin or Caucasian skin has more yellow in it than Asian skin. Asian skin has more browns and reds, earthy reds. So right now it looks like she isn't from this medieval kind of like Germanic or white kind of backdrop. So you see how the light source had no relationship with what was happening on her face. And now what I'm going to do is shift over all of the values of her skin to be a little bit more red. Okay, I'm going to try to do this without ruining your painting. Lately I've been saying, you know, just let the, paint over get messy as long as you're interpreting the values right. Okay, so now she's got more of a white complexion than an Asian complexion. Let me show you really quick the actual difference. Do you see how green you were before? We do have greens on the white complexion, but only near translucent areas, so we have them around the under eye. So I'm erasing that red layer, and I'm bringing back some of the under layer to get that green back, because white skin is so translucent that it's revealing all of that fun color stuff that happens around the face, from the blues to the pinks to the greens. Right, so see how green it was before? This was more a Middle Eastern or more tanned. And that's why, again, you're not using your light source to balance and create a uniform light environment. And your skin tones are off, so your balance of colors maybe because you were working in grayscale for so long. And it's okay. There's always a learning curve when you go back to color. There's always going to be a learning curve. When it comes to this ambient light source right here, it's always hottest at one spot. You can't bring in a secondary light source that's the same strength all up along the body. It has to be stronger at one point. There has to be a hot spot, a little floodlight, lowered to its most dim level, and then just shown at the bottom to reveal some of the dress. So this means that this part of the dress over here is going to get some light. I'll do this in a new layer so I don't make any mistakes. Okay, so this part of the dress is going to be just full of light. This part of the sleeve. Remember, the color of this secondary light source also has, it has a color. This secondary light source also has a color. Right, so now I'm also going to weaken it the higher along the sleeves we go. Weaken it near the hair. It's just too bright. Okay, and then just clean that up. I'm not going to read any comments for now. I'll read our comments in a second. So you got it like all the way up along the body. You got it, on this part of this. It should be from the bottom typically, especially for a costume layout. It should be at the bottom. Okay, so you had this upper part of the sleeve, this whole section also in some secondary light source. So you had more power and more rendering with the secondary light source's color and illumination than the primary light source. And that's very problematic. So let's take a look at the before and after. Flat values used along the dress, green skin. Oversaturation on areas that are pretty much without color. I desaturated underwear. I was going to bring some color because I will bring the saturation back, but not on the color areas, on the midtones. So right here, see that? Her dress is blue again, but not everywhere, just on the midtones, just in between where all that light happened. Anywhere where we have secondary light source, anywhere along here. Some midtones along here. Midtones on the sleeve. Highlights are taking advantage of the fabric's reflectivity. They don't really bring with them a saturation. They just reflect more of the colors, the light source's color. This is still blue. This is still a blue dress. It's just happening in very select areas. Okay, and it's a very soft light source, but we have such a sharp cast shadow. If it was this sharp, we would have cast shadows off the breasts onto the dress. We would have cast shadows off the fabric onto itself, so the folds of the sleeves. We wouldn't have such soft transitions between these edges. We would have much sharper edges. So again, you have an inconsistent light source. Your light source is behaving very differently across the map. And then secondly, you've got these reflective pieces that should be shining way outside, reflecting the color of the light source, so they should be a little bit more strong. You've got this piece, you've got the jewelry on her dress. You've got some of this. And when it comes to jewelry, we have a saturation and illumination. Even if it draws away from the focal point a little bit, it is a costume. The whole thing is a focal point. The face no longer demands, it's not a portrait anymore. So the face is no longer a portrait. The face is only the focal point if it's a portrait, if it's a bust. Remember that in a costume design or character design, we don't really worry about the face as we don't worry about that radius anymore. Okay, so I'm bringing some scattered saturation, some brightness along each of these petals, each of these little, not petals, each of these little pearls. So we bring in more reflection there. And look at the before, after. Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense with what's happening to her dress down here. As for the feet, just fully enlarged, compare her head to the size of her foot. That's a completely different age. I'm going to desaturate some more along the shadows. Her chest area is bothering me just a little bit. It feels like one flat value. I would just darken underneath her collarbones. Show off some of the rib cage contours just along. And then there are some other issues along the face. So I would darken that far half of the face. Use that black around her, like in the pocket of her hair, everywhere. So lower the, I'm not sure how to describe it, let me show you one second. You grab this color, the mid-tone, and then you darken that to the darkest point. So everything that isn't that dark, it's that dark, and then you grab lighten layer using the same exact color, and then you lighten. So you don't really have any changes in value inside the pocket of her hair because there isn't enough to feed that. There isn't enough light to show the little bumps on the neck surface. It's in a cave. Okay, so I'm going to bring in some more brightness. Her hair feels a little oily. And it shouldn't be just one beam of light along her head. It should be multiple. So we should just have a constant pattern of the hair. And then I'll jump on to the next critique. So these are my suggestions. They show a little bit more maturity in your understanding of light source. They show more consistent of a light source throughout the painting instead of select instances of different kinds of light sources. And light source isn't just in how much highlight we get. Light source is more than that. It's in the kind of skin tone we're seeing, the temperature of the reds, how much blue we're seeing, all reflects to the behavior of the light source. And then finally, I would smudge out and soften this shadow because the light source that you're drawing right now across the map, from the low cast shadows around the chest area to the non-sharp edges everywhere, we're seeing a very soft universal light source, not sharp enough to outline the full extent of her dress. If the light source coming from top down was sharp enough all the way through all of this down to her dress and showing a really, really good outline, that means that up here we had like crazy cast shadows. We had a longer cast shadow along the nose, sharper around the eyes, cast shadow from you see this little bump, cast shadow off of that. The light source would have been able to provide all of that sharpness. Okay, so before, after. As for the brightness of the background, it's too dark. considering that you had that much visibility on the on that cast shadow you started off with, and now even more so that we've shown the kind of full spectrum of the skin tone value, and we brought in those saturation belts. So I would keep that same strength you had, but just raise it a little bit so it makes a little bit more sense with how much visibility we're seeing. Just look at the hair. The hair is being less reflective. Something is causing that. Okay. So if you wanted a little bit more of a transition, you want to make it start darker because that's the color of the backdrop behind her. You want to make it a little less bright and then still get away with some stuff, kind of meet it halfway. That's fine too, but just where it was too dark. And now that secondary light source doesn't seem like it's more strong than the primary. It seems like she was in one big shadow. She should have been dark all the way down. She should have been dark like this all the way down, like a night value color for everything over here except that. But you had all this visibility on the skin tone, so we brought back the saturation and we made the universal strong again. What does the universal do? It lightens the background as much as it lightens the object. So we had this super saturation everywhere and this brightness on the skin tone. The background had to have been bright enough because the light source was bright enough to reveal all that skin tone. Okay, and just to show that the light source is pointing downward, we're just going to brighten the bottom right along here. It also could be one of those weird photography studio backdrop thingies. Don't do one of these. We don't need that. We know she's there. She doesn't need to be represented as like Virgin Mary or anything like that. All you need is just a straight transition, no transition, just straight background against her, the edge of whatever it is we're drawing. There doesn't need to be all this introductory transitioning between the object and the background when it comes to these. We're always trying to create an environment with these character design layouts. It's just a clean, straight gray background is just fine too. You're still showing off some amazing talent just by drawing the character itself, just the information there. Okay. So I'm going to shrink that. Merge that down, and we'll do one more before. Before, after. You want to bring in more light source strength around her face. You want to bring some shimmer in. Feel free to. Everything is now balanced. You can have as much fun as you want. You can bring in all kinds of stuff. Okay. Any questions? What was that question? Do you think rim light secondary light source feeds line dependency as it is basically an outline? Sometimes when a student kind of just messes around too much with the shadows and doesn't have proper shadows, they feel the painting is flat. The artist of the painting we just saw probably felt, hey, this is flat, so something flat is going on. And they brought in that rim light to kind of save it. So then that worked. And then the next time they painted, they said, hey, that worked for me last time. I'm just going to render, mid-tone highlight shadow as much as I need to, and then I'll make sure that, whatever I lack, the rim light is going to save me. That's not good thinking, because that's what you end up having, a really, really poorly developed primary light source. No universal light source environment. You have bad colors that don't reflect any kind of unified room at all. Everything feels like it was picked from a different universe and different time of day. And then you mess up on the skin tone values as well, because you forget to answer all these questions of all the textures you're rendering in this same room. So balancing your colors is a really big thing. It's a really big deal. You had great shadows, you had a great face, you had great anatomy, other than that small foot. So your grayscales, your painting in grayscale provided you with a lot. It's just, balancing colors is a lot more, it's a specific craft that you can only do with colors. There's no way around it. You gotta just try colors. And this is good. This is a good try. Over here, something about this painting is bothering me, and it's the visibility of the other eye, I think. It's just too much visibility. Right now, if I were to judge this, grayscale it in my mind's eye, and then call it one day of many 14-day challenges. This looks like a day 4 or a day 3 to me. Day 14s are what you're expecting when you think of a full illustration. So the painting we just saw, this is a day 14-day challenge. All right, this is a graduate of portraits. This is someone who knows how to draw a face. So you don't have a day 4 and you place it against a background and expect it to be successful, especially if it's a bust, especially if there's no other character design. You don't get away with a badly painted face. Here the face is beautiful, but it wasn't just about the face. If it was a bust, it would have just been perfect as well. But here all you had was the face, and that's what was lacking. So you, I recommend diagnostic. You're just not done your 14-day challenge. You're just not done perfecting the portrait. And because of that, you've made some rotation issues. The face almost feels like it's in full full rotation, but you're kind of just forcing the visibility of that eye. The placement of this eye against the face is too far back. So we have that needs to be cleaned up. Okay, and then we've got this eye. Merge that down. It needs to be pushed forward and rotated down. Kind of enlarged, I hope. And then we've got that whole upper part of the face. It needs to be pushed backwards. So I'm gonna try to do this by shrinking this a little bit. I hope you're flipping your canvas. I hope you're kind of trying all this. Before I merge that new eye down, I'm going to actually just tuck the whole skull back. It just needs to be more like this. Everything was just too forward on the top half. The top half curves away from the nose, and the lower half curves. And the nose is the most far-reaching part of the face. Even if you've got like a big Herculean face. I hope this is what it needed. I still have to flip the canvas and make sure all over again. So a couple of rotation problems, a couple of angle issues with the eye. The mouth is, I'm just going to fix it, it's too sharp. Unless he's wearing lip liner, it wouldn't be that sharp. And the way the face is descending, the corners, the pits of the outer corners of the lips, the way they descend, it's just not like that. We do more of a big bump. Let me start low. A big bump, and then we kind of move inward just a little bit. We don't really have that tail, that cartoony tail. And connect that there. The light is coming from the top. And then we've got the actual ID color of the light source. I'm going to just choose that background color. It seems like it's just a light source against something else. And I'm going to get that beautiful color and just lay it here. And then erase away wherever there was a cast shadow or an interruption of that value. So just over here. Creating some edges. So now we brought in a universal light source. There's still an issue with the face. I'm still trying to figure it out. I feel like this whole placement is wrong, because he's kind of tilted at us at the same time. This feels a little bit more accurate. Still probably have to tilt that eye. And then we've got this really beautiful purple shadow. Good job on the color choices. They are very, very fun. You've managed to use purple on green, which is very, very difficult to pull off. I do invite you to try that blue-white primary light source color. It's bringing in a little bit more variety. You don't want anything to look monochromatic. The further these cast shadows get from the object they're being cast from, the fuzzier they get. I'm using the number 4 smudge brush. And I'm just smudging away. And then I need to hide some more of that distant eye, which you're showing too much of. It could be a combination of 2 different kinds of references. It could be you didn't just follow your reference properly. It could be you didn't use a reference. There's just many reasons why there's too much of that eye visible. It's the missing eye. It's the other side of the car, the wheel on the other side of the car. You're not going to force the visibility of that. You're not going to force the visibility of this. It's like someone standing facing away from you, kind of on an angle, and their shoulder is very far away on the other side. You're not going to lift that shoulder above their head just so we can see the shoulder. That makes no sense physically. It's impossible. Anatomically, it's impossible. If it's rotated, it's gone. That's it. It's on the other side. Don't force it. It's more of a, it's very, very little. It's more of a full side view rotation. And we're seeing we're seeing half the eyeball. If we're seeing half the eyeball, look at this. The further corner is hidden. We're not seeing the other eye. We're not seeing this kind of eye, are we? No, we're seeing half the eye. This is half a circle. All right. And then we've got the upper lip being more outward than the lower lip. We've got the chin being too out. Okay, and then he's kind of tilted away, like he's kind of tilted his head to the back, so that line of the neck, this line right here, gets a little bit more fuzzy. It's not a full edge. He's kind of tilted away from us. So hopefully this is the change we needed. Let's take a look at the before and after. Okay, so lower jaw sticking out way too far. This is a front view for perfectly balanced with the camera eye, but it's against a head that's tilting away. So let me show you. The head is doing this, tilted away this way. We're seeing this lower half of the cube. That's why I smudged out this part. But the eye is doing from this corner to this corner, and then you complete the full line, it's doing this. Okay, so that was problematic. So we kind of fixed that. We made sure they're all tilting in that direction. And then we just need to see that there's an imbalance in the eye, and then that top half of the head was just sticking out too forward. Again, it could just be a Herculean face, but it was a little bit hard to kind of place this eye with the face. The eye must have been very downturned. If you want to increase the size of the eye for beauty, you just have to make sure that when you increase it, it's not thrown off that tilt that it needs. That slanted tilt. So when we enlarge it, we also tilt it. The head is tilted away from the camera. Okay, and every time you enlarge it, you tilt it away. The edges for the side of the face they need to be more precise. You shouldn't be using up, the secondary light source shouldn't be that strong, basically. We should be seeing some of these extreme edges happen, these bumps along the contours of the skin. But what you've done with the lips, the fact that the lower jaw was above, the placement of the lights, the bulkiness of the face, feels like you're still transitioning from like a sorrow head. It feels pretty early still in your 14-day challenge. You get that sorrow head Grecian thing going on. And for us to feel more like a familiar organic face, less bulky, we kind of wait to the 14th day when we actually start getting a real face. So everything's kind of facing the same direction. The nostril is still bothering me. It doesn't have a real dome to it. When a face kind of tilts away, so we're seeing the lower part of the the chin kind of just relieving some of that edge, so we'll also see more of the nostril. And because the head is tilted away, we see more of the nostril. But because it's partial 3/4 view, we don't really see all of this surface area of the Cupid's bow. We see some of it. It's tilted away from us. So that means the nostril starts a little bit more at a slant. So nostrils got this like teardrop shape from front view, and from side view it's just got like a slant. So we're trying to find the mid-ground because it's tilted away and it's side view, but not fully side view. Okay, so you see that? It was like front view nose without the tilt backward. So a lot of perspective issues, and just the tilt was all wrong. It kind of looks a little bit more angry because I flared the nose, but the eyebrow, this little bit of the eyebrow, that was too sharp. It wasn't an H. It wasn't unified with the H. I would just make it more bright along that section. But that bulkiness, that goes away. That bulky face, that Hercules face, it goes away as you continue painting. And then because we tilted the face away, we can lift this outer corner of the mouth. Not so much as a smile, just because the head is lifted and so all the lines got lifted up. But the lips just have too much of an outline around them. That's usually gone in a successful 14-day challenge. That's usually gone by like day 10 or 11. We don't have any of those funny outlines around stuff that's all muscle. You stop trying to outline muscle. He also looks older because I didn't properly erase around all these seams I made. We have more light on the inside of the nose, just like that. Because the septum is now facing the light source. So you're trying to do front view but also side view. All you had to do to match the face, the eyes with the rest of the face, is tilt the face forward. But here I just tilted everything. As for the hairline, I don't know, the whole face itself feels too small for the head. At the end of the day, the last correction to make is just the size of the head and the size of the face. Feels like it should be more like this. You only see this kind of stuff when you're zoomed out. So before it was very, very tiny. That head was huge. And now the head kind of feels like it's balanced. I don't know, it feels like it's the right size right now. And again, these are the kind of issues that disappear by day 10. In a 14-day challenge. Right, just the size of the thickness of the neck and the pectorals are all giving away this the size of the head. I want to try to meet it halfway, because I do remember seeing people with, you know, faces this small and heads that big, but it's just starting to look like an 80s wig. You know, for when men, you know, when they did those movies. It just feels like a wig when the head is so elevated outside and the face is so small, it feels like a wig. But when it's natural hair, it kind of just sticks on a little bit more. And the reason why I'm hiding this far part of this, the parting, is because, again, it's rotating away. We don't get to see that part. The lips are still funny to me. They're not kind of in the same perspective still, but it's a little bit closer than before. Everything seems to be facing the right direction. I would, for one last correction, oops, filter, liquefy, just tuck in this brow section. But because it's kind of tilted away, we're seeing some of the upper eyelid. It's just, it's a difficult one, this one. Some of the hair might be hiding the eye. That might be it. I wouldn't know till I flip the image. Yeah, that was the problem. The eye was a little too close as Okay, so before, after, kind of more of a recognizable face. Feels less like one of those sculptures that we use for reference. The lips are still off. The lips are over outlined. It was just a flat value in the sharp lip. You really need to make it unify with the face. The face was too small, and the rotation for the nose wasn't the right rotation for the Cupid's bow or for the lips. The eyes were in a different rotation. The visibility of the further eye, these were all different perspective levels. And then all of that against the body. The body is the camera straight on, but the head is tilted away. One thing I can do is just shrink the new head just a little bit, so that tilt of the body isn't so detectable. But even then, I feel like if we're seeing this part of the head, it isn't just a head rotation. We would see part of the pectorals as well. You do have that outer curve to show that perspective. Okay. So tilt that down. You can only tell if the head is too large once you draw the rest of the body. So add some wings here for the rest of the canvas. Even if this is your crop, add them anyway so you can find out where these issues are. Was this PNG? Probably. Have you ever felt this skill freeze thing when you draw and paint digitally for so long, then go back to a traditional skill freeze? Yeah, like like you falter. Yeah, definitely. I've felt that. I don't know what this file type is. Okay. For this piece, she's kind of looking old because her eyelids are sagging. What you have to make sure is make those eyelids are on tight. They don't look like they're kind of sagging because of the age. So if we have a perfect sphere here, we need that same sphere shape over here so she doesn't look old. Then you've got the fact that the sphere of the eye is spherical here, but long here. It should be the other way around if anything. But because this is stylized, you can just keep them both straight. Okay? And then we've got the size of the nose, which you can keep that size. It's just the rotation. It wouldn't be that sharp an edge yet because it's not a side view. It would be a much softer edge along the nose. Balance the edges. Also, the reason why she looked old is because you had these kind of jowl things happening. You just want to tuck those in, make it a straight line instead. So it seems more of a natural, bony face than just anything sagging or old. This could be the bump of her hair. The chin needs to be aligned with the symmetry of the lips. And I'm just going to lessen that extreme emotion. Okay, so before, after, right, so everything is just a little bit more relaxed. And then now I'm going to get rid of that edge. It's not an edge yet. It's still 3/4 view. It's not an edge. The other nostril can still be visible from here. And then you've got the cast shadows. So you've got this long cast shadow coming off the nose, but like no cast shadow coming off of the helmet. The helmet would cast the shadow, a really strong one. I'll get something that's kind of in the shape of the helmet. There we go. Blur it. And then erase away at it along the contour. So if the hair is elevated, so is that edge. Okay, so we need that. We have some really strong cast shadows here. Could you please stop dropping the F-bomb at any point in your videos? If my parents hear me listening to a video and you do that, I'll probably be banned from your YouTube channel. Thanks. I'm sorry, I swear a lot. I swear a lot. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. don't know. I'm sorry. I mean, you guys, you know, mean a lot to me, and I want to make sure everyone's comfortable, but I don't know what to tell you, homie. If I feel it's just going to happen, I really can't control it. There's nothing I can do to stop me from dropping the F-bomb. I am Iraqi after all. Alright. So this is a structural spherical, you know, it's mechanical, the sphere shape of the helmet. It needs to stay perfectly spherical. You guys want me to go behind my parents' backs? You know, whatever you are with your parents, whatever your relationship with your parents, you need to sort that out. I have sworn a lot because it's my channel. Typically, kids who are too young to swear shouldn't be on the internet at all. Taylor Allen, I'm sure you've watched YouTube videos by these smoshy, whatever God knows what disease infected YouTube at one point. But they've sworn their little tits off as well. So if you're old enough to be watching YouTube, you should be old enough to hear someone say the F word and be old enough not to repeat it if you're not allowed to say it, right? So you should tell your parents, hey, if you trust me to go on the internet, you have to assume that I will be exposed to some swearing. And this is a public session. I don't really swear like this in anything closed or private or a professional setting. This is more of like a friend talking to friends. In no means do I take on a very professional role or this this ego when I teach here. It's really all just friends talking to each other. And if I swear around my friends, I'm pretty transparent that way. I don't really have different faces. But if I am teaching a younger student, of course I won't swear as much. Private sessions, but here I'm pretty much talking to my young adult friends, 17 and older, who are allowed to browse the internet unsupervised. Okie dokie? If you're 18 and your parents are worried about you hearing swear words, something happened. So I'm fucking sorry. Okay. All right. So consistency with the light source. The light source is coming top right down. So that means the top right half of all of these geometric shapes get that illumination. So I'm going to get that beautiful white value and then just lay it on top of all of this. I darken this far half of the geometry. But if you are of age and your parents have allowed you to go on the internet unsupervised, you should let them know. But some people swear when they stream. Haven't you ever heard Bill Burr or Dave Chappelle? Like, I'm sure you've watched some kind of comedy with somebody. Her high eyelids are making her look really sleepy. So what I'm going to do is just make her eyes look a little bit more awake. It is cute to make something look a little bit more dreamy-eyed. Okay. So I'm just going to make her look a little bit more awake. I'm not really sure what the story is. There should always be a story. See how sleepy she looked? Kind of looked a little bit too sleepy. I'm just going to try to get them to be a little more symmetrical. So what I did was just some basic structural stuff. I have a problem with the orange you're using on her face. She's very pale, so that orange shouldn't be that dark. It should be more purple. Okay, so you just see all those bumps and bruises all across her face, and that, like, it looks like she had one eye swollen. Like an allergic reaction. That age, bumpy along the edge of the face didn't feel very young. What else? The upper eyelid should have a little bit more shadow to it. And a crease. God, I'm craving 7-Up. I don't know why. And why do high eyelids appear as sleepy? I would think that more open eyes would be less sleepy. What do you mean? So everyone just get a little bit sleepy, okay? So what happens to your vision? Half the vision disappears. Half of your, yeah, back on topic. So half of the picture you're seeing kind of just disappears. That's basically what I mean. But sometimes we have a perfectly open eye, but we've got like these deep set eye sockets, and it just looks, people who have humongous eyes and deep set eye sockets always look sleepy. Even though they could be fully awake. It's just because there's a lot of visibility there. So we are used to assigning sleepy with visibility on upper eyelid. That's why even when people look like they have, even people who have big eyes and they look perfectly awake do have that sleepy touch to them. Big eyes, big, humongous, beautiful eyes always have that romantic, partially closed look anyway, so it's not a bad look. It's just make sure you don't have half of this pupil gone and half of the and full visibility of the upper eyelid, because when this is covered, when half of this is covered, half of your pupil is covered, half of your image is gone. Your vision, your picture you're seeing. So that said, I am going to just shift really quickly the pink, the reds here. I'm going to make them more pink. I'm going to try to anyway. So she's pale. Pale skin allows for the full greens to be visible, for the full reds to be visible. So what you had before, this is very pink. What you had before was a little bit too orange, which is very tan. This is the blush color we give tan skin. So I'm just making it a little bit more pink, but all in all, I think you just had too much blush around that area. Oops. Let me find that, select. Erasing some of that. You should just have more skin tone than pink anyway. This is a little bit more red to help with that. There's a lot of brightness all around, really sharp cast shadows. This super sharp cast shadow, this super brightness here on her shoulder should have transferred all the way toward her chest area, the top of her helmet, and all of that reflects right back because it's a reflective surface. And then we've got the reflection on the helmet, which we use to we represent it as a mirror reflection. So anything nearby that we think is nearby that might be reflected in this picture, we kind of just reflect it. Any random, stupid, weird little shape is fine. We're just reflecting anything nearby on that helmet. But only the glass part of the helmet. It stops right at the end of the glass. And it needs more transition, needs to be blurred. It's not a perfect image. It's just like the spaceship nearby or something like that. Okay. A lot of glare. And this color that you used here is like a burn. So it should be everywhere. It should be all over here. I know that's a really freaky looking, but this is the color you used. This is that color. That color should be everywhere on her face. Why did this area only get dark? Is she in a shadow? If she's in a shadow, which is really fun, you can just get like a darken layer and then kind of show how she's in a shadow, like a trail of a shadow. Maybe the shadow of the spaceship. Oh yeah, that too. Weird little wings too. Like she's in a partial shadow or some kind of cast shadow coming off the nearby ship. And that means when objects are in shadow, they get, just canceling that stupid blur, useless. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, Gaussian. That means that areas under that cast shadow are desaturated. So we just desaturate all of this. Okay. So it's a tile landscape. It's not really a profile. You're showing, I mean, what is it? Portrait. It's kind of in between a lot of different light sources. You have a full lens and you have this bumpy face, and you're not consistent with the reflectivity of the suit throughout. I just threw that cast shadow over there to save the rest of the picture. Maybe you have some kind of Tron-like illumination on her costume that we're seeing glow. But hope that helps. Her face feels a little bit more awake. I don't know what the story is. I don't know what her face, what purpose her story is, what she's looking at. But if she's like we're talking like League of Legends Splash or something like that, and it's just one character you get to choose, and this is like her glamour shot, this would be a lot better than that tile you had, which was really awkward. There was nothing happening on either side. So maybe just cropping it would be a better idea. But these are some changes to help you. This piece right here is very beautiful. I love the reflection. You have asymmetries all around. The hair has that 80s style volume to it that we discussed a couple classes ago, which I really, really don't recommend. It looks very cheesy. It doesn't feel realistic. Hair doesn't stay that voluminous in all that outdoor wind. It just doesn't keep its shape unless it was like those those Sephiroth cosplayers who have like or Team Rocket cosplayers who have this really funny looking wig on that's just stiff. Just don't try to do that. Just don't try to do like a cartoony like trend, like the equivalent of it in real life. It just doesn't do that. Hair doesn't do that. So that's, couldn't take her seriously because she had this really 80s look to her, which is a little funny looking. When it comes to hair, like I've talked about this before, it's a little bit too strong for us, for our trends right now. Our trends are straight today, and you as the artist really do have to learn some trends. 80s anime in the 80s had that humongous big ass hair, and now you just don't have that anymore. You have more of a balanced curl on either side. It's a little bit more close to the scalp and less caricaturish. All right, and that's what you always want to avoid, looking like a caricature, looking like a joke, looking like something that was intentionally exaggerated. The breasts are not balanced. The anatomy is just a little bit off. Try to work on the hands, and if you're not going to do anything else with the rest of the painting, try to work on the landscape at least. This is all empty. So finish this river, bring in some more. But these are just some of the changes I would recommend just from now. Okay, so do you see how 80s it looks? Even 90s had that as well. 90s hair. That breast was gone up. Shoulder was just a little bit off. The anatomy around the torso seems like it's a Barbie doll or like a G.I. Joe doll or something. You might want to just add some, again, like a non-corset, more modern width to her torso. Her arm lost some volume. Any big hair will never be out of fashion. Unless she's a drag queen, then... But have you guys seen those Sephiroth, you know, the little, you know Sephiroth's little bangs? His French? People actually just get them to stick like that. It's just really funny looking to me. Okay. One thing I don't like about her gaze is that she's looking down. She kind of looks disappointed. What I would love to see her doing is looking up. Maybe even squinting because she's looking directly at the light. She'll feel more real when you do that. So she'll feel a little bit more real, a little bit more active, like, wow, she's so real, she'll squint her eyes if light hits her face kind of deal. That's real because that's a functioning creature. That creature is functioning. Damn it. All right. Okay. Just looking more at the light, and this is more tilted. And then I would do that squint. Right, then she looks like she's a superhero who's taken off her helmet and just has her glamour shot given to her. That seems a little bit more dramatic than just looking down and spaced away. Here she looks like she's on a mission. I would make her look even more high. Nope, nope, it's too high. Yeah, just looking at the direction of the light. She's looking in the same direction the hair is blowing in. Feels a little bit more dramatic than just looking down, kind of not really caring. Then you can bring all that color back. Right now, the skin tone, you have beige on her, the whites of her eyes, which are making her look a little bit more sickly. We actually have a grayscale, grayness, or blueness to the white of the eyes. If you make them look yellowy, then it looks like renal failure. That's it for today. For the challenges that are coming up, so you get an option of 2 designs to do. One of them is a post-apocalyptic robot child design, basically like children AI robots that were designed to be man's companion, but post-apocalyptic, man's gone, robots left behind, they have nothing to repair them, they have nothing to fix the bugs, so they kind of go rogue and have their own little post-apocalyptic gangs and landscape, and so you have to design that. You also have different elemental warrior kind of magical companion, which is just someone who has been embodied by a demon, and is that what the term is? And that demon makes up for the disabilities that they have physically. So if they don't have arms, they have demon arms to make up for them as substitute, kind of like demon prostheses. And you have to design those as well along the brief. So if you want to join the community and you want to join the challenge, oops, just go to Istebrak.com. Click on the Google Plus icon to join the community. Make sure you read the rules. I have officially and finally completed it. The rule that there is no more fan art. If I see any Overwatch fan art or League fan art or some kind of anime fan art, instant delete. If you have the, if you're using it as some way to gain an audience or something like that's not what this community is for. It's got a lot of members and I want to keep it to a minimum, how much people post a day, and maximize how much exposure one person gets, and that the exposure they're getting is along their actual skill set, not redrawing something that's already been drawn 1,000 times. I would rather see form studies than see Overwatch stuff any day, because this way you're basing your fan art off someone else's drawing anyways, and that drawing has already answered all of the form questions, so there's nothing experimental about your fan art. There's like nothing new that you're studying. You're not drawing like a new character with weird billowing cape. You're not even taking on a new angle for that. I've seen the same character, Overwatch character, like 4 times in 1 week, and I just kept deleting them because this character has already been pre-drawn, pre-designed, everything's done. There's no more creative force. You're just being a printer and gaining the fan art through that and getting the fans through that. You're just proxying an already successful concept. Try something a little bit more experimental and a little bit more to your benefit as a student. To join the challenge, just go to the community and download the character design resource pack. All the references and information about joining the challenge is there. But before I go, do you guys have any questions for me? I will be having the surgery on the 25th. I'm going to have to take 2 weeks off. I read on it, and I've been doing a little research on how much downtime I'm going to have. So for the 25th of July, 2 weeks after that, I'm just going to be off. If I can, stream or have personal hour or something. But the first week of the surgery, your whole face is so sore, you wouldn't even be able to talk. So I'm not supposed to talk that much or lecture. My lectures are like an hour of talking, and I'm tugging at my lips and my nose, and it probably might cause like some trouble there. And then as well, I'm going to sound really stuffy. You have splints, and then you have a cast on your face. Lots of bruising, like you have a wisdom teeth surgery. Your face gets bruised up on your cheeks. But I'm going to have to do the surgery, honestly. My voice is sounding worse and worse as the septum deviates more and more, so what can I do? I have to do it now before I get older. How do I study Bern Hogarth books? I'm not sure what you mean. It's already been written in a good way to study. He introduces everything piece by piece and leaves the more complicated concepts to the end. Loomis, Bern Hogarth, they all seem to be doing that. You need to say, write that back to me, please. You haven't said it. Bitches get stitches. Write that back to me. Best of luck on your operation. Yeah, I'm so nervous about it. I've never been on that kind of operation before. I don't have a tablet. Will you still critique a traditional piece for the design challenge? Yes, I will, Edinor. Absolutely. Let everything be all right. Everything's going to be all right. I'm good. What else? Have any questions? Thank you so much. Learned so much. You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome for anyone who said thank you. Thank you, Rosa. Shouldn't we see her butt cheek behind the bent leg? Yeah. How do we learn what's in style? Are there certain sources that are good for finding out what's in? It's all over magazines. Just look up recent trends, latest hairstyle trends. Look up tutorials on YouTube. You'll have all kinds of information there. Any more questions? How do you determine where to place the pupils so they don't seem dead? Angelo Rodriguez asks. I've talked about before making the eyes a little bit more crossed so they look like they're focused on something. So when they're spaced out, that's when they look derpy, and that's when they have too much of a distance between them, the pupils and the iris. So if you want to make the eyes look awake, just show a little bit more of the iris. Make sure you don't hide the pupil. And make sure that the iris and the pupil, that whole eye system, is crossed a little bit to make it look like it's focused on something. And so it doesn't look dead. Looking dead has many layers to it. Should her head be bigger? I feel like she's supposed to look like a Titan. If you ever seen long jumpers or pole vault people, I don't know what they're, pole vaulters. Any Olympic people, they tend to look like they have small heads because their bodies are so large. Maybe her torso is just a little bit long. I might shrink her torso. How did you learn to use the layer and color modes? Just experimentally. I'm not the best at all the Photoshop tips and tricks. I've just used whatever I've needed in the radius of my dashboard. Okay. Did anyone say it? Bitches get stitches. Don't listen to Kendrick and rap after your surgery. No, I won't. Thank you everyone for your well wishes. Okay, so have a great day, guys. Thank you everyone for joining. I will see you guys on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Good luck with all of your submissions. The submissions are due next week, Tuesday. If I see that a lot of people need time, some people have been busy doing studies, and I know that Antares really wants to get started on his, and I've seen some other people who haven't been able to finish. I might just extend it to the 20th just to help out. If I do decide to do it on the 13th, I still might dedicate 2 days for it. It might just be one day. I haven't seen many finished pieces. Remember, I'm only looking at finished concepts. I'm not looking at half-finished stuff. I'm only going to be looking at finished concepts. So I don't know if I should fit Robot Children and the Magical Companion on the same day, maybe one each, so the 20th and the 22nd. But if you guys need it. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great day, guys. Bye.